Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a quick reaction episode of the African Five-A-Side podcast. As always, my name is Maher Mizahi, and as always, I'm your host. And this podcast is brought to you by africasaCountry.com. AfricasaCountry.com, by the way, these days, a very interesting article I read last week. It was sort of a portrait or a profile on Paul Biya. It's called Paul Biya, the Last Kaiser, and sort of profiles him and gives an angle to him that I hadn't ever seen before. Obviously, the man has been ruling Cameroon for 3 or 4 decades now. Might be into his fourth decade. So um, I'll put the description to the article in the link below. And don't hesitate to check out africasaCountry.com for any of your news on the African continent. So yeah, this is going to be a quick video. It wasn't that well researched. It just wanted to talk about a quick, hot, off the top reaction from the news that Jose Riveiro might be signing for Ahly. It started this morning with Orlando Pirates putting out a club statement on the official website. The title of the club statement was "The club grants head coach early release," and the first line from Dr. Irvin Koza is Jose approached us a few weeks ago with a request to be released from his contract ahead of schedule, having signed with a new club. And that was sort of news to me, and I think it was news to most people. We knew that Jose Rivero was not going to be returning to Orlando Pirates. He had announced as such. Um, you know, we knew that he was probably not staying in South Africa because one of the reasons that he had given for leaving Orlando Pirates is that he wanted to be closer to home. His family lives in Europe and he wanted to be closer to Europe. And so most of the speculation was that he would either make a return to Europe. There were even like some rumors that it was going to be the Finnish national team as he had coached in the Finnish championship. Or I think the more credible rumors were that he would end up in North Africa. And so shortly after Orlando Pirates released that club statement, we started getting reports out of Egypt from Yalla Kura now, saying that fairly credible reports saying that Jose Rivero is set to sign with Al Ahly. He's going to be coaching Orlando Pirates for their final match on Tuesday afternoon before flying to Cairo and being presented there. So the fact that Koza said that he had already signed, I think he meant like agreed to terms. Um, First of all, I think it's a classy move from Orlando Pirates to let the coach go. Obviously, there was a tough loss in the Nedbank final a few days ago. There's not much to play for now, really. And one of the indicators that really adds credibility to this report is that what's the rush? Like I understand he has to be with his next club, but there's the entire summer. But if it is Al Ahly are obviously playing the FIFA Club World Cup in the United States of America. That starts June 14th, so in about a month's time. In that case, he does need to get to his new club as early as possible to prepare that very, very important competition. So that does add a little bit of credibility to the reports that he might be signing with Al Ahly as well. So, um, what are my thoughts about this? Jose Riveiro, I'm not going to lie to you. I really started paying attention to him this year as they had started participating in the African Champions League. I didn't follow him too closely in his first 2 years with Orlando Pirates. But what I would say is this is a conversation I've been having really over the last 10 days or so. I think sometimes we can split coaches into two categories. We have builders and we have, I don't know what to call the other category. Let's call them finishers. If we're talking about construction, you have some coaches, if you're building a house that can, set the foundations, pour the concrete, erect the pillars, they're really going to construct a team from sort of A to, well, I'm not going to say A to Z, but A to X. And then you have other coaches that come along and let's call them finishers. And they're more the ones that are going to be painting, putting the curtains, doing some interior design, buying the furniture. Um, and I think you have some coaches that are very good at doing one aspect of that coaching and other coaches that are very good at doing the other aspect of that coaching. And sometimes you have a coach that can do both very well. Um, but I was trying to find out what is Jose Rivero. And the reason why I sort of thought about these two categories, because I was having a conversation with a friend about Hulani Mokoena and why it didn't work out for him at Wydad Casablanca. First of all, I think everybody that's watching this channel, we thought it was a little bit of a weird move, him moving to Wydad Casablanca, right? I think we expected him to maybe be a candidate for the South African national team, um, maybe make the move to Europe. I think that was pretty seriously being talked about prior to his move to Morocco. But the other question was like, why not move to a slightly bigger club like Al Ahly? See, the problem with Wydad, they are obviously a big club, one of the biggest on the African continent, but there was just so much turmoil and instability. The previous president, Said Nasiri, was, sort of caught up in this huge government scandal, I think linked to drug dealing and cases like that. And so as a result, he was no longer in charge of the club. They bring in somebody that's supposed to be ambitious and competent. Hisham Minna, sure. I like the coaching appointment, but he really had to rebuild the entire squad. They lost some of their most experienced players like Yahya Atiyatullah, the left back, who's currently at Al Ahly. Their captain in midfield, blanking on his name now, Yahya Jabran as well. So there are a few key players, that left the club. The club is in turmoil, instability, and Hulani Makwana decides to go there just a few weeks or months after leaving Mamelodi Sundowns. And I was talking to my friend and I was saying, why didn't it work? And we both sort of agreed that that challenge of building, of constructing Wydad Casablanca, because that's what was necessary then, was a step too far. Not only because, it's a new country, it's another language, it's a different context, all of that, but also because he was making the argument that perhaps Volani Mokoena is the second category of coach. Perhaps he's more of a finisher than a builder. And I thought about that. And I thought it was interesting because it's true that at Mamelodi Sundowns, the foundations were already set through years and years and years of investment and successful coaching like Pizzo Mosimani and so on and so forth. That when he takes the reins of the club and he has certain quality of player and he has, like a certain quality of staff, he can just add, a little bit of salt and spices and everything. And don't get me wrong, that's still a very difficult job. And only he could have done the job that he did, in my opinion. And he had them playing in such a unique way. I think that was very, very, praiseworthy, but he didn't really have to build from the ground up. And that the person was also pointing out, I pointed out that it's true that when he was at other clubs, didn't necessarily have that success when he had to build from zero. This isn't a reaction video about Olani Mokoena, and sorry, I don't want to prolong the discussion about him, obviously, but I was wondering, you know, what about Jose Riveiro? Um, Oh, sorry. Last point about Mokoena. One of the points that we're making was, what if he went to Al Ahly? Al Ahly already has the bases. They already have that Champions League winning squad. You know, I think it's true to say that any coach can have a little bit of success with Al Ahly, but if you have a high quality finisher like Mokoena who can really add to the, tactical ability of the club and so on and so forth, he can raise them to an even higher level. So, like don't say that, oh, somebody just adds the finishing touches. That doesn't mean they're a good coach. No, because some finishers, they really take it to a higher level than a random run-of-the-mill coach or other builders. So what about Rivero? I'm just wondering now, and I'm not making this assertion, but I'm just wondering, is this a case of the opposite? Um, you know, Rivero has had Orlando Pirates playing great football this year. One of the main observations that I noticed when I was watching them play was how in sync the attacking players in particular were in the CAF Champions League this year for Orlando Pirates. The interplay, the ball usually coming from deeper, from midfield or from defense, straight into the striker's feet, who it's almost one-touch passing. Evanes Makopa, for example, lays it off to Masongani, and then the wingers are already gone as soon as they see that first entry pass, and they have that third man off the ball runner. It was like boom, 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 and it was shocking a lot of clubs, and they couldn't really deal with the speed and the intensity of that attack, and it was beautiful to watch. It was that sort of Spanish style. Um, and Rivero, I think, was probably the best tactician, definitely one of the best tacticians on the touchlines of the CAF Champions League. And I think it could be argued that he was perhaps a little bit limited by the quality of talent in the Orlando Pirates squad. That's not to say they don't have a very good squad, because they do, but I think if you look at player 1 to 18, I don't think we can compare that to Mamelodi Sundowns, Al Ahly, and some of those top clubs in Africa, which is fine. Orlando Pirates are just making their return to the CAF Champions League this year, and um, obviously they can improve their squad, but I think you could effectively argue that Rivero didn't have that quality to draw from, and so as a result, it's a little bit harder for us to judge him in that way. You see, I think we can say that Rivero is a builder because he's only really been a head coach for two sides. One is a Finnish club called Inter Turku, and now for Orlando Pirates. And each time, the clubs were, let's say, out of their, not where they wanted to be. Inter Turku, I think, before he came, was sixth place in the Finnish league, and he brought them up to second place in his first season. Orlando Pirates, of course, were not in the position that they wanted to be in, and as soon as he got there, um, he had them winning trophies, most importantly, around two per season. But also he had them qualifying in the CAF Champions League places. Now, last year they qualified for CAF Champions League, but they were eliminated in the preliminary stages to join in Galaxy. And then this year, of course, they went on a very deep run to the semifinals and eventually eliminated by Pyramids FC. So we've proven that, he can build, and this also perhaps is supplemented by the fact that he was an assistant coach for a very long period of time and a youth coach for a very long period of time. And what I would recommend that any Al Ahly fan that's watching this video does, or any Orlando Pirates fan that's interested, if you haven't seen it already, go to Pirates TV. It's a YouTube channel from the Orlando Pirates official club account, and watch the video called Bucks Camp, Bucs, one word, CAMP, Bucks Camp, the coach. And it's around, I think, 50 minutes, and they're profiling Jose Riveiro, and it's such a good video, very well produced from the club. So shout out to the Pirates media team. But it really gives you a feel for who the person is, Jose Riveiro, and why he sort of gelled so well with this group at Orlando Pirates. The players, how they speak about him almost as being a second father, especially some of the younger players like Mohawan Kota, and there was another player, I forget who was talking about him, saying like, I didn't grow up with a father. He's sort of been a second father figure to me. How some of the players like Tabelo Toki sort of relate to him as a man. They all talk about him just being a good person, somebody that you can go and speak to. Um, even if he can be a little bit sometimes shy and withdrawn, but they all vibe with him and they all meet him at a human level, and they vouch for him on a human level. And usually you can find that with youth coaches, you can find that with assistant coaches, not always necessarily with senior coaches who at times can be more ruthless, Um, and that Al Ahly, Jose Rivero is not, he doesn't need to be a builder. You're going to be inheriting a very good squad, and they've already been very, very proactive in the transfer window. I believe they've already come to an agreement to sign around, if not mistaken, like 5 or 6 players already, including the Tunisian midfielder Mohamed Amin Ben Ramadan, who was very, very good at Esperance de Tunis and currently playing in Hungary, I think, for Ferencváros, if I'm not mistaken. Um, a few of the other names are slipping my mind, but they've had a very active transfer window. So first of all, you have no say really in those signings. So you're not really building the squad, right? Al Ahly are not looking for a builder. You're not dealing with a lot of young players at Al Ahly. Very, very few. They're few and far between. On the contrary, I think Al Ahly are looking for a finisher. They're looking for somebody to take what's there, which is very, very quality material, and to make it artistic, to elevate it to a level that other coaches can't do. And I don't know if Rivero can do that. I mean, I think he can, but I think he can in a safe, healthy environment. I don't think Al Ahly in general is a safe and healthy environment. One of the things you do when you watch that Bucks camp video is you realize that this is somebody that is very well calibrated. He's somebody that is, again, seems to be a good person, has a very good holistic idea about what he wants from football and life. I really think that he's just like a good guy, and if you met him, anybody would probably vouch for him and say that. You could just tell from how he is and what his relationships with his players are like. And you're taking a good guy and you're throwing him into a pit of snakes. Um, the quality is there, again. The budget is there. The ambition is there. But it's ramped up to an extreme. The ambition is ramped up to an extreme to the point where it can be toxic. It can very much be toxic at times. And in that kind of environment, you can't necessarily be naive. You can't necessarily be too nice. You can't be holding players' hands. Sometimes those environments necessitate somebody to be ruthless and angry and mean. And I don't know that Jose Rivero has that in him. And let's just take, the last few months as an example at Al Ahly. Um, One of the things that a coach would have to deal with, the board at Al Ahly, which is a very powerful entity at the club, decide that the club are going to forfeit the derby against the Zamalek for a reason that I don't think many people accept anyways, saying that there were supposed to be foreign fans, foreign referees, there's no foreign referees. As a result, we're gonna decide to forfeit the match. A strong coach maybe can speak to the board and say, no, like you're messing up our season. And in that case, like if you have a real big name coach, somebody that has a very strong personality, that doesn't necessarily respect hierarchy and, job descriptions, perhaps they could have changed that. But if you have somebody that's a little meek, just wants to be on the training pitch and says, I'll let the club administration deal with the other stuff. Those are the kinds of challenges that you can really deal with. And that was the wrong decision for the club. And that's a decision that set everybody back. And so, yeah, it's going to be a big test, I think, for both sides. Big test for Jose Riveiro to see, can he be more ruthless? Can he have a sort of win now mentality while at the same time conserving some of those qualities of his, that tactical ability, that takes time to implement. So can he find a way to sort of navigate that? But it's also going to be a test for Al Ahly to see, can they be patient with somebody that's probably going to need time to implement his ideas. And if they are patient, and if he is able to get results immediately and they can bring that marriage together, I think this will be a successful union. But if he's too naive, if he's too nice, if he isn't able to get some short-term results, and if Al Ahly isn't patient, then I don't necessarily think that this is going to be a good appointment. The good news for us, as we're watching, is that this is all going to start very soon. We're going to be able to assess this very quickly, because if Jose Rivero does sign with Al Ahly, he's going to be taking them to the FIFA Club World Cup, sorry, in the United States of America, and we're going to be able to make judgments pretty soon. Then, the good news for anybody that's watching this channel, if you're subscribed and if you're watching, is that I will be at the FIFA Club World Cup. I'm heading out on June 15th, and I'm going to be watching each of the four African clubs. So I'm going to be going to one Wydad Casablanca, one Esperance Tunis, one Mamelodi Sundowns, and one Al Ahly match. So I'm going to be trying to really produce a huge amount of content as I'm out there. I'm only going to be gone for 6 or 7 days, but I'm going to try to do one video for each club about their experience over there at the FIFA Club World Cup. So yeah. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think about this potential appointment from Jose Rivero to Al Ahly. Do you think it's a good idea? Are you a little more hesitant? You think this is the right move for him or not? Me personally, again, to recap, I think like Roulane Moukwana, who I see as more of a finisher, I would have loved him at Al Ahly instead of Wydad Casablanca. If he could have been patient for one more year, I don't think he was being very well advised. Jose Rivero, I could see perhaps taking Wydad Casablanca. He's somebody that I think through his coaching philosophy believes if we play the right way, the results are going to come after 2 or 3 years. But I need those 2 or 3 years. North Africa is not necessarily a place where you're always going to get those 2 or 3 years. So yeah, those are my overall thoughts. Please let me know what you guys think. Excuse me for the prolonged delay, but I'm very intensely working on the CAF Confederation Cup final and the CAF Champions League final. We're going to be doing these huge comprehensive previews, I think, that are going to be the best on the internet. So please keep it locked in. Please like, subscribe, and comment, and we'll be talking to you all very soon. Take care and peace.